Ethiopia told the UN Security Council that the issue of the Nile is not a security issue. This news I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. The Water, Irrigation and Energy Minister Sleshi Bakala in Thursday's meeting urged the United Nations Security Council to encourage Egypt and Sudan to stick to the AU-led negotiation to seek a solution for the GERD issue. He also urged Egypt and Sudan to understand that a resolution to the Nile issue won't come from the Security Council. Rather, he said it can only come from good faith negotiations under the auspices of the AU with due care for the well-being and development of each other. Trying to politicize and securitize the matter won't pave the way to a win-win solution, the minister added. Let's listen to what he had to say.
In this meeting and the deliberation of the Council, where a hydroelectric dam is under scrutiny in unprecedented manner, I'm not sure if I'm not the first water minister addressing this Council. Ethiopia believes it is unfitting use of the time and resources of the UN Security Council to discuss the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Having said that, Mr. President, it is an honor for me to speak before this august body, voicing the concerns and just causes of my country, Ethiopia. A year ago, on 29 June 2020, under your presidency, Council members encouraged Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan to continue negotiations to resolve the outstanding issues and expressed support for the African Union-led process to facilitate further talks. Ethiopia took part in the negotiation with renewed commitment and good faith to reach a mutually acceptable negotiated outcome under the auspices of the African Union. The dam has the fingerprints of Ethiopia's farmers, pastoralists, daily laborers, students, businesswomen and men, and the diaspora throughout the world who eke out a living in extremely difficult circumstances. In equal, if not exceeding terms, Ethiopians have best wishes and neighborly care for their compatriots in Egypt and Sudan. We have all the intention to live together in peace and cooperate for our mutual benefit. The GERD demonstrates this core principle of collective well-being and prosperity. That is why the GERD is one of the regional integration projects under PIDA, the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. Mr. President, it must also be clear that the underlying problem for the difference between the three countries is the quest to preserve colonial and monopolistic status quo over the Nile. The approach of trying to solve problems using the mindset that creates them is what blocks our consensus on the GERD. The Security Council is faced with the question to determine whether or not Ethiopians have the right to utilize the Nile River. On behalf of all Ethiopians, I implore our friends in this Council and in this wider international community to answer this question. Do Ethiopians have the right to drink from the Nile?
An Ethiopian negotiator on the issue of the GERD chastises Egypt and Sudan for accusing Ethiopia of breaching international law by proceeding with the second filling of its mega dam. The negotiator Gideon Asfaw stressed that there is no point in arguing on the matter. The second filling is being executed as per the Declaration of Principles the three countries signed in 2015. With more on this story. It's been more than 10 years since Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt broke up in a dispute on the use of the Nile waters, as Ethiopia launched the construction of a huge hydropower dam on the river Abai. The three countries repeatedly failed to strike a deal that could break the deadlock. The dispute is now getting steamy as Ethiopia started the second filling of the dam, which is a milestone achievement for the East African nation. Desperate to stop the second filling, Sudan and Egypt are entreating the UN Security Council to intervene in the matter. Confident with what it is doing with its mega dam, Ethiopia looks bold on defending its action regarding the filling.
ግንባታውን የተስማሙ ሁለት የበታች ሀገሮች ሙሊቱን ሊቃወሙ አይችሉም በመሰረታዊ ምክንያት
The two lower riparian countries have no ground to oppose the second filling of the dam. Article 4 of the Declaration of Principles clearly stipulates the fair share of water between the three countries. So we expect them to abide by this principle. There is no need to cite any international law or principle. The three countries have signed their own declaration, which they are obliged to live up to. They both clearly know how much water will be released annually, as the declaration was adopted by the water experts of the three countries. If the filling of the dam had a significant impact on them, these senior hydrologists of the two countries would not have agreed on the issue.
በሱዳን ላይ አደጋ የሚያደርስ ቢሆን ኖሮ ወይም በግብጽ ላይ አደጋ የሚያደርስ ቢሆን ኖሮ ለምን እነዚህ ኤክስፐርቶች ይስማማሉ?
The panel of experts had agreed that three continuous studies should have been done within 15 months since the signing. The two countries interrupted the process with their rigid stances, the negotiators said, adding that their misleading media campaign would ruin the negotiation.
በተለይ ሁለቱ ሀገሮች ከነዚህ በሚዲያ የሚነገሩ አንዳንድ
The two countries should refrain from releasing disinformation that may hamper the progress of talks. Spreading misinformation in the capacity of an expert or a leader would not help the negotiation. Rather, it creates barriers.
የሚያደርሱ ነገሮችን በኤክስፐርቶችም ሆነ በመሪዎች ደረጃም
Ethiopia firmly believes that the matter should be dealt with the talks in the facilitation of the African Union, while Egypt and Sudan are calling the international community to intervene. The United Nations should translate into action its very principle of fairness and equality to member states by not denying Ethiopia of its rights to use its own God-given natural resources. The Ethio-American political science and international relations professor Brooke Hailu Bashar made this remark in an interview with the TV English. He also said the second filling of the dam is going on in a transparent and open way as agreed upon the Declaration of Principles in 2015, and it's not clear as to why Sudan and Egypt are violating the very agreement they've signed. Shfaralaika reports.
Ethiopia, in developing the Abai River for its needs, has asserted time and again its intention of causing no harm to lower riparian countries. However, Egypt and Sudan are still complaining about it and seeking the help of the Arab League and the UN Security Council. The political science and international relations professor Brooke Hailu Bashar calls on the United Nations Security Council to translate into action its very principle of fairness and equality by not denying Ethiopia of its rights to use its own God-given natural resources.
From what I read a few minutes before I got into your interview, is Tunisia is has submitted a draft resolution that calls on Ethiopia to stop or to cease the filling of the dam. Yeah, yes, they have done that, and that I think will not be taken lightly by Ethiopia. The Security Council, I think, should really take a look at the laws, the international laws, especially when it comes to transborder laws. The Geneva Convention of 1997 should be clearly underlined. You know, Ethiopia, as a transborder country, has the right to use the water and to let go. As long as Ethiopia does not stop it, it has every right to do that. Regarding the Security Council, fairness to each member. Denying Ethiopia its right to use its God-given resource, I think it's like committing a suicide on the United Nations. It's like, I will put it like when the League of Nations did not come to help Ethiopia when it was when fascist Italy aggression was committed on Ethiopia. Doing that by the UN now, it's going to be a historical blunder, and I'm sure there are many sane countries, members of the Security Council, which will not come on board supporting this really tainted Tunisian draft resolution.
He also says the second filling of the dam is going on in a transparent and open way, as agreed upon in the DOP in 2015, and it is not clear as to why Sudan and Egypt are violating the very agreement they have signed.
First and foremost, the second filling of the dam was done in a very transparent and open way. Ethiopia was transparent. Even when Ethiopia started the filling of the dam, it did it not just orally, but it was in written form to the governments of Egypt and the Sudan, full stop. From this day on, we have begun to fill the dam. And why now? It is because of the rainy season. Heavy rains, as you know, in our part of the world, in Ethiopia, begins in July. And Ethiopia was hoping, just like a year ago, that due to the good conditions, it is God-given, rather it's God sent, really. A good amount of rain, that in a few days' time, we might fill up what Ethiopia requires for the second filling, which is 13.5 billion metric cube. This was decided in March 2015, 23 March 2015, by the DOP, we call it for short, an agreement on the declaration of principles between Egypt, Ethiopia, and the Sudan. It was signed by the three leaders. It was agreed upon. It was agreed upon, I can even cite you by Article 5. If you look under Article 5, it talks about the filling. It was agreed upon. So Ethiopia is not breaking the law, the regulation, the agreement, but it is implementing it as per the agreement decided upon.
Sudan and Egypt didn't bother to show up in the several trilateral negotiations while waiting for help outside the African Union, he says.
Egyptians, as you know, and the Sudanese have been absent in numerous meetings lately, as you know, at least 6-7 times by the Egyptians, as far as I know, at least 3 times or something like by the Sudanese, because they say that America should come on board, the European Union should come on board, and the United Nations should come on board. This is really reckless and not good. First, is the United Nations Security Council, is it the right arena or the right place to do that?
Yeah.
The Security Council looks at peace and war and security matters. Yes, water is survival. Water is a big issue, but this is an African issue.
The scholar has also called on the international community to scrutinize the distorted information that Egypt and Sudan are propagating against Ethiopia's self-sponsored flagship project.
An Ethiopian scholar says the second filling of the GERD is a spare DOP agreement signed in 2015. The scholar articulated that Egypt and Sudan's latest protest of the second filling contradicts the agreement reached among the 3 countries.
From the very inception of GERD back in 2011 till now, neither Egypt nor Sudan were happy about the biggest African hydro dam news. Multiple trilateral negotiations have been held, but due to Egypt's slippery position, none of the round talks ended with concrete results. Talking to Meet ABC, Samuel Tafarra from Center for African and Asian Studies at Addis Ababa University articulated that Egypt and Sudan's position over the second filling of the dam violates the Declaration of Principles agreement signed among the 3 countries back in 2015.
That push has been seen after the signing of the Declaration of Principles in 2015 by the 3 heads of states, which al-Sisi still remains in power. And they have been propagating an agenda which contradicts actually the principles enshrined in that particular declaration. It was very clear from the beginning that the filling of the dam is part and parcel of.
It was clearly stipulated in there.
Yeah,
right?
it was clearly stipulated in the process. They have understood, they have signed it, they have agreed to it, and I don't see why they're bringing this over and over again.
According to Samuel, Sudan was not against the GERD construction some years back, but now due to Egypt's heavy-hand influence, the country loses its stance and reached to the present anti-GERD position.
For Sudan, it's very interesting because they have been even participating in the construction of the dam itself at the first few years. Once Bashir was gone and the new transitional government led by Hamdok came into power, the civilian part and the military part has not been in good terms, and they have not been in agreement for long. And Egypt can be blamed for that, right? Egypt was interfering in the internal affairs of the Sudanese state, the Sudanese government, which somehow also forced Sudan to take a different course in terms of the way it was communicating with Ethiopia about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Since then, it has shown it has taken different positions, of course.
Samuel advised Egypt and Sudan to turn their face into honest roundtable discussions rather than complicating the matter.
Egypt and Sudan has lost in many of the fronts, including their invitation and the way they have orchestrated to bring the Congolese president Flex into the chairmanship of the African Union, right? It has some issues related to taking sides, related to bringing the issue of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to a final rest. It didn't work that way. Particularly, we have seen it in the Kinshasa round of talks.
The second filling of the dam, which started earlier this week, is expected to be completed once Ethiopia retains 13.5 billion cubic meters this rainy season.
The TPLF group that were pursuing continued its belligerence to protect few individuals. In furtherance of its agenda, it began conscripting young and elderly civilians, women and men, to fight highly trained and armed men of their country. This exposed the people in Tigray for the military confrontation that are not prepared for. We will augment humanitarian efforts in the region, including distribution of food and non-food items from warehouses across Tigray. The National Disaster Risk Management Commission and the 5 humanitarian agencies deployed in all waradas of the region are set to resume their function. Following the organization of peaceful and successful national elections this month, efforts are now geared towards building a stronger, united, and democratic country. In this connection, the Ethiopian government is developing a roadmap for inclusive dialogue to ensure a lasting peace and stability.
Scholars laud government's unilateral decision for a humanitarian ceasefire in Tigray region. They call the decision proper and timely. Kazan Jane reports.
Ethiopian government recently announced unilateral humanitarian ceasefire in Tigray region, intending to give relief to farmers so as to concentrate on their farming activities, especially during this rainy season. Consequently, scholars at home and abroad excluded the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire can be pivotal to stabilize the region.
A unilateral ceasefire was put into place, implemented by the central government. I think that is a good move, even a very strategic one. It would enhance humanitarian assistance. It would even give respite and make a break and a pause to all sides. You know, to think and to think what to do next. It would give the federal government had made this decision with the hope that peace will be reestablished again, with the hope that the former regional leaders, regional rebel group leaders, would really pause and think of peace as a good option rather than continuing the conflict.
According to the scholar, the international community should hold the terrorist TPLF accountable for years humanitarian crises that have been happening in Tigray since it provoked the war in the region. And Dala Neguse, scholar at the Ethiopian Civil Service University, for his part, expressed his appreciation that the government took the lead to ensure unfettered humanitarian assistance in the region.
The government, has discussed thoroughly. Again, the mission has already accomplished, so the government already decided unilateral ceasefire so as to save Ethiopians in that regions, first and foremost. Again, so as to give, humanitarian aid, freely, without any obstacles. You can see the reform already give priority for public interest, not for some individual selfish interest at that group. So because of this, the government has decided, because no more that group can be a threat for Ethiopia's sovereignty.
It was noted that the Ethiopian government announced unilateral humanitarian ceasefire in Tigray, cognizant of the proper request of the region's interim administration. The decision was made with the conviction to ensure better humanitarian access in Tigray, yet the result will be seen in the course of time.
Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Demeka Mekonnen briefed ambassadors and diplomats of 9 European states in Ethiopia on the latest status of the GERD negotiations. During the meeting, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister said the GERD represents the common aspirations of all the riparian countries to equitably and reasonably utilize the water resource without significantly harming downstream countries. In this regard, Demeka said the latest attempts made by Sudan and Egypt to take the GERD issue to the UN Peace and Security Council by mobilizing the League of the Arab States would unnecessarily internationalize and securitize the matter. It also leaves a dangerous precedent and takes the negotiation process away from the African Union, standing contrary to the principle of solving African problems through Africa-led mechanisms, he added. He said Ethiopia believes that the GERD is a development project which does not fall under the mandate of the Security Council, and called on the Council to respect the ongoing AU-led trilateral negotiations and process. The diplomats have finally underscored that the UNSC has no mandate to decide on the GERD, that is purely a development project. see the best of us, the best of us. I wanna see the rest of us, the best of us. I wanna see the best of us, the best of us. You're watching Addis News Hour. 643 Ethiopian peacekeepers received United Nations Medal for their service in South Sudan. These peacekeepers received the prestigious UN Medal honoring their services to the cause of peace in South Sudan. The ceremony was attended by senior UN officials and state dignitaries. During the event, Ethiopian peacekeepers were praised for their immense contribution in reducing intercommunal conflict, preventing revenge attacks, and related issues. Before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Ethiopia told the UN Security Council that the issue of the Nile is not a security issue but developmental. Well, that's it for the news. From me, Solomon Dang, and the rest of the English team here in the